The average rent in the United States is damn near $2,000 a month. So you're giving your landlord over $24,000 a year in some cases.
$2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660.
Sadly, this is getting to be the story of pretty much everybody out there. I haven't rented since I was in my 20s, so I've been out of the housing market forever on this shit. But I tried to help my niece get a place about 6-8 months ago, something like that. And she was telling me everything she found was $1,900, $2,300, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, sweetheart, you just let me look for you. There's something out there, $500-$600 a month. It's decent. I'll find it. There's not. Like, how? I mean, why did we get to this point? Why is just a decent place to sleep and cook and survive exist? Why is it $3,000, $4,000 a fucking month?
I'm honestly so upset. Living in America is freaking ridiculous right now. There are people choosing whether they want to have Christmas gifts or pay their rent, and that might not be different from any other year. $2 to $3 grand on average. You need to make 2 to 3 times that. $9,000 a month. How many people with regular bachelor degrees are even making that? No one. Not a lot of people. No one wants to live with roommates. That's not the answer. Everybody deserves a safe and clean space. There's no reason why so many people should be roommating, or you can't even buy your...
Hello, greetings. So today is Sunday and I'm back off the road trucking. It was a successful week. For those that's new to the channel, I drive trucks Monday through Friday or Saturday, and then I come home for the weekend. So currently what I want to discuss is I am interested in changing my environment, and so I'm going to be starting a process of buying my first home, and I'm really excited. I know that it's going to bring about many different challenges, and I know that with the economy and the uncertainty of the future, that no matter what we choose to do, there's always going to be risk involved. So this video is simply to discuss why I am seeking into purchasing my first home and what I want the outcome to be.
So to move in, you paid over $4 grand. And if you have a pet, some cases more. With moving expenses, let's say you paid basically $6 grand to move into that apartment. But with the new FHA programs, you may only need max 2.5% to get a house. And that's just for your closing costs. FHA is basically no money down now. If you know the right lender, of course. So what are you thinking? USDA is no money down. VA is no money down. I work with a lender that you can buy a 4-unit for no down payment. But you're renting a 2-bedroom apartment? Stop it. It's almost 2024. It's time to be a grown-up.
You want to buy a house instead of moving to an apartment? Listen up. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. I bought my first house when I was 23 years old, which was about a year and a half ago now. I'm 24 now. So I'm going to tell y'all the exact steps I did to buy my first house. Very first thing you need to do, step 1, you need to get in contact with a mortgage lender. They are the expert. They are the one who's going to look at your situation, where you're at financially, what job you have, how much money you have saved up, your credit score, everything, and they're going to tell you exactly what you need to work on doing in order to get set up to buy a house. All you need to do is Google mortgage lenders near me and then literally call a couple of them. Do not go with the first one, and see which one you like. Step number 2, in order to buy a house, you have to have a certain credit score, you have to have a certain amount of money saved up, you have to have a low debt to income ratio, and you have to have job verification. And the mortgage lender is going to tell you all of those things. So step 2 is get to work. The things that you do not have yet or have not met the requirement, those are the things you need to start working on. Now, these things are not going to happen overnight. That's what you need to understand. But if you start today working on these things, it will happen. And let me tell you why buying a house at a young age is way smarter than moving into an apartment and paying rent. When you are young like me, you start immediately building equity as soon as you buy a house. When you rent an apartment, you are literally building someone else's equity. Literally all you're doing is paying someone else's mortgage. Now there's pros and cons to renting and owning.
This one's for the boys. So you may be going through a period of growth right now. And if you are, that's fantastic. That means you've had a life-altering experience, a mind-altering experience. This experience happened at the crushing of yourself. It could have been from a relationship. It could have been from a loss of a financial career. It could have been from a loss of just everything. We take a very heavy toll, right? We take a very heavy toll when something breaks us, when something absolutely takes us away from knowing who we are anymore. But the great thing about it is that once you're able to accept that your turn for growth is here, you're unstoppable.
I am interested in purchasing my first home. I am 29 years old. In a week I turned 30. And I'm interested in purchasing my first home because I've been driving trucks and making a decent income for the last 2.5 years. And I've been through a lot and I have overcome a lot. And so my entire perspective and the way that I think, the way that I go about things has definitely evolved somewhat. And some things I'm still working to change about my personality or my lifestyle. And then other things I've learned to accept. So one reason that I'm looking to purchase a home in Houston, Texas, or the Houston metro area is because I feel and think that I have outgrown my environment. So I am from Central Louisiana, on the outskirts of Alexandria, Louisiana, really rural, very small townish. And in the past 5 years, I've experienced the death of my father, the death of my brother, a divorce because I was married really young, and a career change. So those are 4 major events that helped change or impact the way that I view the world. Conversely, I also, when I got into trucking, I started traveling, and so my bubble got bigger, right? So when I was 23 years old, that's when I went out the country. 23, 24, that's when I left the country for the first time. And then from 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, I spent every consecutive year after that traveling to different states and traveling internationally. So in the last 4 years, I would say that I have been to Cuba numerous times. If you're on my channel, you probably know that. But I've been to Cuba 5 times. I went to Cuba. I met a girl in Cuba, and I started traveling back and forth to Cuba. So Cuba is the country I spent most of my time in outside of the United States. Colombia, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, which is a territory of the United States, but it's a totally different culture, and St. Lucia are the 4 countries and 1 territory that I've been to. And far as the states, I've spent time on the East Coast, New York, the West Coast. I've been to California numerous times for work and also a little bit for play. One of my closest friends used to live in he lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. Excuse me. So I spent a lot of time traveling to these different places, and my entire perspective has grown, and I really think that I have outgrown my environment, so to speak. I think that whatever I would have became and the things that I would have accomplished by living in Central Louisiana, I have maximized my potential here. And I think in order to grow, I definitely need to leave. Now, what prevented me from leaving here? Now, when I was in my early 20s, I lived in North Louisiana. What prevented me from leaving Louisiana was the fact that I went through so much, and I went through a serious breakup, and she went somewhere else, and I was here with the kids. So I had to stay put for a while because our child I only have one child. My son, he was really young, and so I didn't want to uproot him from his support system. And then with the career that I have, being away from home weeks at a time, and then now I'm on a schedule where I'm going for 5 days and then I'm able to come back. It was just it was a lot to overcome. And when my brother and my father passed away, that left me just devastated, but also I was somehow optimistic about the future. I wanted to continue my path. I needed to continue my journey. I don't think that they would have wanted me to stop in my tracks because I went through something tragic. Because in life, we all go through things that's tragic. We all go through things that's unfair. And so I didn't want to prohibit my growth because I went through something that was tragic, right? I wanted to keep going. And so as a result of this, I have now reached a point where I'm on the other side of the coin, right? When I first started trucking, I didn't know how to drive. I didn't know how to back. I learned how to drive trucks on a 15-speed vehicle. That's the stick. And I never drove a stick. I drove automatics my whole life. And so I had to literally learn while I was doing it. I got my CDL, and then I ventured into, I was 26 at the time, and when I really got into trucking, I went to Texas the first time, and it didn't work out. It was a very bad experience, but it was new, and I had to learn that too. When you're first learning how to drive, you're on the trainer's truck, all of this stuff, there's countless videos about that. It's going to suck unless you get a really cool guy. I think I could be a cool trainer because I think if I was a trainer, which I don't necessarily see myself becoming, but if I were a trainer, I would be in a situation where I would want my student or the person that I'm mentoring to excel, right? I think that some trainers, they take themselves way too serious, and they say it's a lot of trainers from the videos that I watch and things like that. When it comes into learning the job, they're just looking to kick the person off the truck. So if that's your mind state, you're really not a good trainer. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I went from driving drive-ins, reefers, to now I pull doubles. And I have all of my endorsements. If you're in trucking, you know what that means. So that means that I could do tankers, doubles, triples, hazmats. I don't have a chauffeur's license, but that would be something else to get. I wouldn't mind driving like a tour bus or something like that. I know some people that's into that, but trucking is a very diverse occupation. Like, it's more to trucking than just driving or moving. You can move people, you could move materials, you can do oversized loads. It's a very diverse field or industry, and it's very lucrative. I mean, and I always wanted to drive trucks. When I was 18, I wanted to get into truck driving. So I did that in my 20s. Now, I also was in insurance. I was licensed in insurance. I never really made a lot of money with insurance, but I learned the ins and out of the industry and how it works. And one of the organizations I was a part of actually became $1 million branch in Louisiana. And so I was very proud of that because I did help contribute to that. And I learned a lot in the process of insurance. So I did property and casualty as well as life insurance. And I dabbled a little bit in real estate. And so I had experience in those fields before I got into trucking. But trucking actually changed my entire lifestyle because I went from living in one place to traveling the world, always being on the go. And I went from literally, I'm going to be very transparent. I went from making, let's say $3,000 a month at one point in time when I was fresh out of college, $3,500 a month, to making $5,000 to $6,000 to $7,000 to currently making $9,000 a month. So everything changed. Now, when I first got into trucking, my only goal was to make money. That was the only thing that I thought about, was making money. I didn't actually have a plan of what I wanted to do once I got the money. I had a spreadsheet that I wrote on my Google Docs, and on one of my templates I wrote make $70,000 a year. and that was the goal, was just to make 70K. And I thought, well, if I can't make 100K, if I could bring home, like, after taxes, $70,000, then that means I made about 95,000, right? As an employee. So I was like, well, if I could make that much money, then that's almost like 40%, 45% more than what I was making, because I was so broke in my early 20s. You know, I remember making maybe, when things got good, but I remember making not a lot of money, basically. And then I remember making like around like $43,000 after taxes. You know, and I was stable. I had an apartment, I had a car, and, you know, but I was a horrible employee at the time, because I didn't understand. I didn't want to work, so to speak. Like, I wanted my cake and I wanted to eat it too. I don't think I was lazy, but I just think that I didn't have much direction and I really wasn't motivated. But in that time after college, being in that situation where, okay, now you have rent that's due, you got, you know, car insurance, you got a girlfriend or a spouse, then I had the young kid, I was forced to have to be responsible. So I really, I'm not gonna say I missed out, but I've been adulting throughout my 20s. Like, I never was just basically had a chance to take my foot off the brakes and, like, not do anything. So I was constantly leveling up. So now, I'm in a situation where my divorce is finalized and I'm out of that relationship, and I wish her the best and everything like that. No hard feelings. I just think that ultimately we were really young, and I think that we wasn't compatible with one another. I think that ultimately we wanted different things in life. And I think that that's okay. I think that's a part of growing up too, is experiencing things and realizing that not everything is going to work out. And, you know, we have to accept change. Change is constant. So in that time frame, I always wanted to leave Louisiana, actually. I've always wanted to live outside of Louisiana, my home state, but I had different things that was preventing me from doing so. So at the time, she didn't want to leave out of Louisiana. You know, she wanted to stay here, and I wanted to leave. So we ended up staying, and it was easier to stay because my support system was here. But now that I am, you know, turning 30, the last 2.5 years, I haven't been home since, like, 27? Like, I haven't, 26, 20, I haven't been home. I literally spend the majority of my days working out of state, in different states, waking up in Utah or California or this and that, and just coast to coast. And I did the OTR thing for 17 months. And it was a while. I had to reach like that 2-year mark before I was able to get a job that was closer to home, where I didn't have to go so far out. So I definitely earned my stripes in trucking. And now I'm looking to make a transition where I'm building a company with my close friends. We are going to build a small company, and it's going to be based in Houston. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to move to Houston, or I want to move to Houston, is because the company that we're building is going to be based in Houston, Texas. So Texas is a very large state. I've driven through Texas as a trucker, going out west, North Texas, West Texas, East Texas, El Paso, San Antonio, Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, up there going into Oklahoma with all the bad weather. I've just been all throughout Texas. And what I like about Texas is that it's large. So in my opinion, while living in Louisiana, I often have to go out to experience things. I have to go to New Orleans to get to an international airport. I have to leave my state to experience certain luxuries. Now, what I like about Louisiana and where I'm from and how we live is it's spacious. We have a really big home here, a lot of property, is bonuses of living here, is pluses that living here is not all cons. But at the same time, it's harder to make money here because it's so rural. So I would rather adjust to a place where I would give up my comfort of having my space to get more financial security. So now I'm seeking a little bit more freedom, but I'm hoping to get the freedom while maintaining my security, right? And I'm also making an investment in my first property. I'm looking for a 4-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, but I would more than likely like a 4-bedroom. It's just my son and I right now. So a 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2 baths. I don't necessarily need a 3rd bath, but I'm looking at townhouses and a lot of them have a 3rd bath. I mean, that would be cool. I wouldn't mind that. I would rather a 3 or 4 bedroom would be my bucket list, but I would settle for a 3, but I would like a 4 just because, okay, if I have my room, my son have his room, I could turn one room into an office, and if down the line I get into a serious relationship, I wouldn't have to think, well, this place is too small, we need to do something else. So, but I grew up in a 4 to 3 bedroom house, so I think that we can make it work. I could make it work either way. And what I realize is that I definitely make enough money to purchase my own home. And what I remember a year ago, I was in Dallas and I was looking at townhouses and apartments in Dallas, and that's when I really realized that trucking had changed my income bracket, because I remember when I first wanted to move to Texas, like age 25, so let's say 4 or 5 years ago, pre-trucking. At 25 years old, with no real skills outside of the licenses I had in insurance and a college degree, the problem with those things is, in my opinion, when you're so young, you want to be paid for what you do. But when you have those licenses, it's possible that you can feed yourself, but it's also very likely that you're not needed, right? How can you want, how many other people have this piece of paper? Like, what solid skills do you have that would entice a company or people to pay you X amount of dollars? And I just think that I didn't really have enough skills to make the money that I wanted to make. And I think a lot of people attend university or college, higher institutions of learning, and they come out with their piece of paper and they say, hey, I have this piece of paper, pay me. But what skills do you really have, So that's a whole nother topic, right? About skills. So if you go to the market, what skills do you have? So that's why I end up getting my CDL. And with the CDL, I remember looking at the townhouses, and it was maybe, and I'm giving Texas prices. So my West Coast and East Coast people, this is different, right? Things are cheaper in the South. But it was, let's say, $1,400 for a really nice townhouse. And I was like, man, like it's not bad. Like, I might need to consider doing something over here because I like it here and I could afford it. But then what stopped me in my tracks is like, wow, do I really want to pay $20,000 a year for a place that I'm only going to be here once a month or a week every 6 weeks? Because at the time I was OTR. So I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. So that's why I'm being pushed more to the buying side of things and not the renting side of things, because in trucking, if I'm going to pay somewhere to stay, I'd rather buy a something that's within my budget. I'm looking at the 150K to 200K. That's really my budget. I will go a little bit above that, but another thing is I don't want to spend the majority of my youth working to pay for things. So I'm kind of looking to keep the price lower on the affordable side, where I could pay it off in 5 to 7 years, because that's really the game plan for me. So, okay. Now I realized, like, okay, well, let's do this. So what ended up happening earlier this year, I bought a property overseas. So when I bought the property overseas, I was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. And so in the States where I'm from, I was like, man, I want to buy a property here because I'm from here, and my confidence had grown, and I was feeling more like myself. I felt like, okay, I'm back now. I'm back and I'm better than ever. Like, I could design my life however I choose to design my life. I could do what I want to do. And I'm not saying that things are perfect. No, but I don't think things will ever be perfect. But I think that I need to maximize my potential on my level. And so in wrapping this video up, one of the things I thought about was, okay, financially, I understand the financial principles. I understand saving 6 months worth of expenses. I understand FHA loans and conventional loans. I understand the value of home ownership. I understand the value of having more than one stream of income. I have a reference point. That's the one thing about getting older, is you get a reference point. When you're so young, 22, 23 years old, you don't have a reference. I think the beauty of even being in your 40s or 50s or 60s is that when a problem arises, you have a Rolodex of experiences to say, okay, this is how I would go about solving this problem because I've been here before. But I think when you're so young, you're fresh out of college, you're just a young person, you have no reference point. A person has no reference point to say, okay, how should I solve this problem? So that's that. So I realized, like, okay, when I was in my 20s, I had 2 apartments, I rented 1 property, and I realized every residence I've ever had, I was in a relationship, right? I was with someone. So I was like, man, I need my own place. I need my own spot, right? Something to just call my own. Something that's just for Brian. I need to do something for Brian. What do I want, right? What do I deserve, right? And I think as men, we're programmed, the guys as grinders. I'm not talking about the lazy guys or guys that's not earning their keep. We're programmed to work hard and share what we work hard for with others. While I think most people who benefit off of the hard work that we do are trained that they have the option to work hard or receive our benefits, but they don't have to work hard and share what they're working hard for with us as guys, right? And that could suck, but I think as men, we have to choose who we want to entertain, who we want in our circles, Where do we want to live? What do you want your life to be like? You know, and I think that trucking has definitely changed my thought process, because after traveling so extensively, I have a better idea about what part of the country I would like to live, the things that I value. And now here's the thing, I have my personal culture, right? I have my culture that I grew up with, the culture I grew up in. Then there's the larger culture of the United States, and then there's a lot of individual cultures going on too. So I always keep in mind when I'm thinking about how I want to live or what I want, or getting advice from others, is that the person giving me advice, it can be limited because my culture, you know, and what their culture is may be different. And then also what we want. If I value security and someone values freedom, and I'm asking them for advice, where they're going to give me advice from their freedom perspective, because if I say, okay, I like to stay put, but they like to travel everywhere, well, the advice that they would give me would be based on what they like to do, so that might not work for me. Or if another person values their time, they might not be able to give me advice if I'm willing to give up my time to get certain amount of securities, you see. So depending on how we view the world, the advice that we receive may not, it's not necessarily bad advice, but sometimes it's more practical to get advice from people who view the world different than you, but also someone who can understand the way that you think. And so now I'm on a countdown. I have 5 months left in this year, so I'm in the process of saving. I still have student loan debt. My goal for my student loans debt is to pay about 15% of it every year, or 20% of it every year, and then that way in the next 4 years it'll be over with. I plan to get out of trucking in about a year and a half. So the rest of this year, and then 2025, and then after 2025, I am going to hang up trucking. So this house that I'm going to purchase is going to be my gift to myself from all of my hard work in trucking, what I've been able to accomplish, the late nights, the early mornings, and exchanging it for something of value. Primarily when I was in trucking, I used my money to take care of my son. I used my money to travel with us and experience different things, go to new places, because I always wanted to travel and see outside of the United States. But now it's like, okay, I've been to enough places that I wanted to go, and I still have a bucket list of traveling to more places, but I need a base. I need a place to call my own. And so that's why I'm looking into Houston, Texas. So I have to, I decided my goal is to go from about February, November, by winter of this year of 24, I'm going to be looking at open houses and things of that nature. In about 4 months, about that time, I have a good bit of savings, so I'll be looking at places. And then when the winter ends is April, May. That's by the time my son finished school this year in my hometown, is when I'm going to make a decision and finalize my purchase. So we're doing big things. I have my tablet over there. We look at properties together, and he's my inspiration, and I also inspire him. And so we're a team, and I want to growth and development. Life is about growth and development. Life is about, finding answers for yourself, right? And adjusting. And I don't think that things are ever going to be perfect. I know that there's always going to be things that we wish that we can change. But I also think that life is too short to live in fear or live in a manner that we think that we don't deserve the best. And like I said, I've made enough money to be able to, I could go buy me a house, you know, next week, but I wanted to find something that's right. And I think that the reason why I delayed on purchasing a home was because I was still finding myself, right? I was still finding out where I want to be, what I want to do. And I've just reached a place where I was like, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the next chapter. Houston will be my base. Is, you know, the 4th largest city in the United States. I love the food and culture, and it's not so far away from my home state of Louisiana to where if I need to go check on things with my mom or whatever I need to do, it wouldn't be that far out. So that's been my video. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Peace.